maybe the next question that to sort of answer, right, is probably none of this would have been possible if you didn't have a team of the type that you had in place at
Yeah.
Ola, right? From leadership to your ground staff to whoever, right, was involved in planning, deciding, and then executing this entire thing. So one of the things, that folks really wanted to understand is how do you sort of think about designing your organization, right? Like, it's not just a number of people and that roles that you have to fill. It has to link to what you want to get out of the company as well, right? So, as someone who had a span of 2000 people, who was constantly building, rebuilding teams, saw the entire transition through COVID. Probably things were definitely not the same before and after. Be useful for us to understand your perspective, on building a team, on turning an org chart from a static, from an Excel or a flow chart into a living, breathing organization and using it to deliver objectives. Would love to get your perspective on what was the org design at Ola that allowed you to pull this off. Be super curious to understand that.
So, so again, as I said, org design uh, is not straightforward, right? It is, again, it all boils down to what you are trying to do. What kind of company are you building? You know, is it a technology focused company? Is it an operations focused company? Right? Is it a design focused company? Right? And your org chart has to reflect that, right? That people who will have the most impact on the prospects of the company have to have the most representation on the senior leadership end, right? So if technology is going to make or break things, right, then your top engineers and your top product managers have to be in the room when key decisions are taken, right? When you are when it's highly operational, right, then you need to have solid ops people being there. You need to understand the nitty-gritties of those businesses, right, to be able to take the right decision, right? It is seldom that you know people who are very analytical or people who are not on the ground are able to take the best business decisions, right? And we have seen this theme sort of coming again and again. What, for example, Nike is going through right now, it's all over the news, right? That if people don't really understand the business, believe in the business, then the right decisions just don't get taken, right? So org design eventually boils down to, do you have the right people at the right places, and they are being heard, right? So it is not hiring the top people, giving them the best salary, but making them sit in a corner with their voice is not getting heard, right? You need to have the max representation of the most important people. And on the other side, you also should have the smallest org possible. That's my personal philosophy to achieve any objective, right? That put the org design in place, be very, very deliberate about what everybody is going to do there, right? Hire the best you can, right? So that, everybody has enough leverage to produce something much bigger than they can individually do, right? And uh, build an org over the system design, right? And the system has to be such a way that it enables people to do a lot more, right? Because throwing people at the problem is one of the easiest thing you can do, which essentially comes to bite you back, right? So I have never believed throwing people at the problem. Let us start with what is the absolute minimum number of people required to do something, and then let's just build from there, right? And strengthen, whatever tools, systems, etc., required for them to do their job, right? So that's how I think about org design in that.
That's
No,
quite interesting. Like when you're saying that you really first focus on the problem that has to be solved rather than just hiring people to fit into those roles. So here I've actually been in two different scenarios in two different companies where they had two different ideologies. I wanted to. It's a bit of a subjective question. I wanted to know your views on this. So there was one particular organization I was in. The people who were hired to fit in two roles, right? So that is, we have a vacancy, let's go into the market and get the perfect person for this. I also was part of another company where they did the exact opposite. They looked for people, and then they, according to the capability of those people, they assigned them roles. Like, so the JD was absolutely blank. Like, क्या करना है नहीं पता, तुम्हारा capabilities के हिसाब से we'll decide. If you look like a good candidate, we'll hire you, and then we figure out what you have. So I've seen both of these scenarios. There's definitely positives and negatives. So I just want to know, what are your thoughts about hiring this way?
No, so like I think it's too much of a gamble with people's careers or with your company itself, right? So I would be very, very clear of what I'm looking for in somebody. What do they need to do, right? And as I said earlier, you hire for competence and you hire for their belief in why they want to be somewhere, right? Because eventually I have seen, no matter how big the organization, the magic happens with probably a single digit number of people, who basically tie it all together, right? And you have to be very, very careful, that anybody in that link or thereafter is just in there for the right reasons, right? So yeah, so that way I'm a little, I go very, very slow on the hiring front, being very deliberate.
Thank you, Gaurav. That was quite interesting, to sort of get your view, right, on how you do these things. One of the things people keep talking about is, even if you hire even companies, that have often hired the best talent, even though they've tried to fit people into their roles, somehow, somewhere, things have often not worked for a lot of organizations, right? And then they've imploded, and then people have left, and it's just been very unfortunate for everyone. So one of the things to sort of understand, right, that especially folks who are at startups or who are founders here in the call or in the org who will watch the recording later, um, how do you sort of think about performance, right? What is high performance? How do you, I mean, you already explained to us how you think about getting the people, but once they are already in the organization, right, how do you enable them? How do you build capability? How do you sort of, nurture their skill sets, their ambitions? Of course, there's a thought process, right? People get very good at their jobs. They suddenly think that, hey, I could be doing something better. They leave. But at the same time, if you don't foster growth, people will probably leave anyways, right? So how do you think about enablement, about building capability, about nurturing ambition to sort of drive, this kind of performance in an organization is, I think, a very, very important question that the audience would sort of like to understand from you. And if there's an example here in some ways that can be played back to the audience, it would be awesome. But, to you, however you'd want to answer this question.
Sure. So let me just take a step back and just probably complete just the hiring point, and then we'll stitch it back to it, right? That one is that you just need to hire absolutely the best, right? And somebody really put it in very, very nice way. One of the famous entrepreneurs, I'm forgetting, but who said that? I think it's Aaron Levy. That A's hire A's, okay. B's hire C's, right? So the downfall of your company starts the day when the first B is hired, okay? Because then suddenly it just starts degrading, right? So that's very, very critical, that you are ensuring that only the best people are coming in, right? Which means whatever criteria you have. And the team that you are forming is truly an A team, because, first of all, A players only want to play with A players, right? And that is just the basic, I would say, human need, that you want to be winning, you know, and you can't make Ronaldo play uh, in a tier C, tier D team. You can give him all the money in this world, but I don't think that he would like to do that, right? So first, the assembly of the team is very, very important, right? Second is, then to your point, how do you enable capabilities and all that, right? I feel the only way to do that, and of course, it's you are trying to figure out the art of possible, that what can a person do, right? And one of the things that has helped me in this, right, is one of my superpowers, which is being absolutely lazy, right? So if I can delegate something, I just do it, right? Without giving second thoughts about it. Even if I can do it, I still delegate, right? Because uh, you need to throw people at the deep end of the pool, right? Of course, you have to be standing there with a with the lifeguard if something goes wrong. But you need to just constantly give people assignments and challenges that they are constantly out of their depth, uh, right? Because but ensuring that they don't feel insecure about it, right? That you are there, that they understand that it is something that they they're expected to ace, but nothing goes wrong if there are mistakes made in the process.
So stretch goals are very clearly defined as stretch goals,
As
right?
stretch goals.
This is base, this is stretch, but that
Stretch.
stretch is what allows people to grow
Ah,
effectively in a way.
ah.
Got it.
Yeah, no, so no, and there is no base. There is no base. There is only, you give top-down goals. Of course, you sometimes sit with the team to build bottom-up goals, and then you add a little painful premium on top of that, and give that, right, just because to see how far can we go. Because the last thing that I want is that I myself am a bottleneck in the progress, that I myself come in the way of progress because of the mental constraint that I am personally facing, right? Those constraints might not be shared across, right? And everybody operates in their own paradigm of constraints, right? So why should I dictate that what you can or cannot do, right? So let's just go and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we'll recalibrate, right? And I have seen that if you are able to do that continuously, and for that, of course, you have to continuously keep your game up, right? That you should be able to think 2 3 steps ahead, right? To be able to give people those goals, because otherwise people will start complaining that is the guy on coke or something, right? So of course you need to be on control. You need to be sure that things will not really break if mistakes happen. They just you have a handle.
Yeah. I was just relating to what you said about hire the best people, right? You hire the best people, and obviously, um, the goals are much clearer. But I've been in situations where there's just a lot of pressure to hire now. We need this project to start immediately. We need people to work on this immediately. And while it's also challenging to find the niche sort of engineers that for the projects that we work on.
Yeah.
How do I navigate this? How is it always better to wait for it?
So there is nothing that is always true, right? So uh, it always pays to plan as much as possible, right, for these exigencies, because you will end up. It is important, if something needs to get done, if you need people, you need to hire in a hurry. That's perfectly okay, right? But I think you should learn from this, and it's a constant process. You need to learn, you need to plan things better, so that you are just this is one thing I do not recommend that is done in a hurry as much as possible, right?
Right.
Of course, when the need arises, there is no other way to do that. Maybe find a way to get it done elsewhere, at say a slightly higher cost, but no long-term liability, right? So that you are ensuring that, again, that the quality filter is not diluted, right? So you just have to weigh the pros and cons at that time. But yeah, as a general rule of thumb, I would just go, as I said, fairly slow on it, and then whoever comes in really test them continuously.